Leadership and diversity. Diversity is more than just considering race or ethnicity. According to Brookins, diversity in a workplace includes employees that have varying characteristics, which include religious beliefs, political values, different socio-economic backgrounds, sexual orientation, and geographic location. What you need to consider is that each person has come to how they think due to being influenced in some way. Take a look at the diversity wheel on the next slide to consider your diversity characteristics. Using this diversity wheel, the inner circle refers to people's differences, for example, a person's age, ethnicity, gender, and so on. This is called the primary dimension to diversity, or core elements. The secondary dimension, or outer circle, are things that people acquire or change over their lifetime. Do this now. Pick an inner circle primary dimension and then an outer circle dimension. What is your opinion or worldview on how this would impact a person's viewpoint? From a leadership perspective, a leader needs to acknowledge that each follower will bring their own strengths and weaknesses depending on their combination of diversity characteristics. Consider how the reality of diversity in the workplace has changed. Organizations are welcoming diversity, especially with global trading, understanding cultural norms, and research shows that diversity can be a competitive advantage and add significant value. One of the trends often spoke about is the aging population and how that affects the workplace population. It's very common to note that the older generation aren't ready to retire at 65 years. This leaves the organization with experienced staff, but it could be argued that there isn't allowance for the younger generation to get a foot on the ladder. With the relative ease that people move globally, organizations are having to accommodate cultural beliefs and norms. Many organizations celebrate the uniqueness of employing different cultures. For example, recognizing the Chinese New Year, celebrating Matariki. When organizations encourage and support diversity, employees feel valued. In turn, this brings motivation and loyalty back to the organization and generally builds better work relationships. When it comes to the differentiation of inclusion in the workplace, a good example is the following. Inclusion is a state of being valued, respected, and supported. It's about focusing on the needs of every individual and ensuring the right conditions are in place for each person to achieve his or her full potential. Inclusion should be reflected in an organization's culture, practices, and relationships that are in place to support a diverse workforce. In simple terms, diversity is the mix. Inclusion is getting the mix to work well together. RBC 2016. So how is inclusion applied? Inclusion is a call to action within the workforce that means actively involving every employee's ideas, knowledge, perspectives, approaches, and styles to maximize business success. Forbes 2012. There are two main ideas that can be applied in developing an inclusive and diverse workplace. Number one is of accountability, holding yourself accountable for decisions or actions and having a shared workplace culture where colleagues hold each other accountable for their decisions or actions. This leads to shared leadership within the workplace but doesn't override the designated leader. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu sums up accountability as a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves." Number two is for the leader to instill open and effective communication, as well as having clear channels or feedback. Employees need to have a set of standards and expectations set by their leader in regards to professional behavior and how to conduct themselves in a diverse organizational culture. It can also mean that the leader gives employees the opportunity to take part in decision making or discussions on how best to put the plan into action. Ultimately, the leader wants to create an inclusive culture in which diversity is valued.